All right. Before we get started and delve into week 2, I want to make sure that I get this out of the way first and make a quick announcement. For anybody viewing this video in the evening of September 10th, 2022, no, this is not a video to find links to a stream of the OU versus Kent State game. You need to go download the app and get ESPN Plus to watch that game. This is a vlog of a pregame prediction of what's going to happen, what I hope to see with OU and Kent State. Last year, I had nearly 1,000 people come and visit the video on my channel, but only 25% actually upvoted it, which I think was due to everyone thinking that was actually showing the pay-per-view game. Well, I don't really care too much about the numbers. In a sense, I do. In a sense, I don't. In a sense, I do. I still don't want any anomalies like that to affect the overall quality of the channel and the videos themselves, especially because this is a vlog video. Now, not all the way. It's our second game of the week, guys. It's Stripe the Stadium week. Stripe the Stadium. Y'all know my opinion on that if you know my live streams. And it's the first night game of the year. And honestly, the most exciting thing about this game, to be honest, is the first time we're facing Kent State. I guess that's super exciting for us. I mean, that's just another checkbox off the FBS master list at this point. But that's about it about this game and this team. Honestly, you might think I'm joking, but really there is not a lot to discuss. This is our yearly bring your friends and family to the cheap game to show them what OU Sooner football is all about. If UTEP was used as a game to shake off the rust, this game could be summarized as a tune-up game for the first road game of the week against Nebraska next week. Delving into Kent State really fast. Last week, they faced off against Washington, who took care of business against them and won handedly 45-20. And I kind of expect that this way as well, as we are a much more talented team than the Huskies are. I just don't see any difficulties with us facing against them. Washington even went as far as to cover the 23-point spread, and we have a 33.5 spread as of this recording. It's a .500 team or 7-6 dating back to 2019. Before that, they just kind of hoped that they broke even and just got even more than 3 wins, going as far back as 2011 before they had their last winning season at this point. Taking a brief look at Kent State against Washington, they had some success on running the ball with 4 different guys, mostly with their quarterback who scrambled a lot for 8 carries for about 5.9 yards. Their main back, Marquise Cooper, he had 11 carries for about 3.3 yards, but in reality, it's only about 2.2 because one of those was a 16-yard run at that point. The rest are Gavin Garcia, and Brian Bradford with anywhere from like 3.3 to 3 yards a carry, respectfully. The quarterback is a very simplified dual threat. To me, even though his arm is not the biggest issue, it's his feet. Like I mentioned before, he scrambled a lot and he was his team's leading rusher at this point. Same thing with UTEP. Wide receiver play is a little bit similar to last week. They have some weapons and can definitely spread the ball out a bit, but their biggest threat is going to be Dante, and I hope I'm saying it right, Cephas, Cephas. He had 6 for 105 yards last week, or 17.5 per average, and then Devontae's Walker for 45 or 14 per catch at that point. That really covers briefly the offense. The rest of the offense is either transfers or they're very, very young, and I don't really expect them to have too much of an impact on this game. When you look at the defense, it's kind of the same way. Most, if not all, their guys are transfers. I think I took a look at their starting lineup, and they only have one guy who's actually like a junior or senior who's not a transfer. Same thing with OU at this point. If we're talking about how Kent State's very similar to UTEP, OU has not changed really from last week to this week now. Brent Venables during the press conference this week mentioned that they have times to celebrate, then they tear it apart and rebuild it from scratch and basically work on the nuts and bolts of it. I don't expect too much to change from last week's game plan or last week's play versus this week against Kent State. I think the biggest thing is the key to the games is, unlike last week where I mentioned I really wanted to see a strong showing and see all the guys on the field, our best players at once. This week, I really want to see plenty of rotation so our depth gets a lot of experience and gameplay experience. I fully hope the starters are pulled by the beginning of the third quarter, though, just to minimize injuries, get them rested, and already get them ready to go for Nebraska the following week. Against Kent State, I really don't see the game plan is really anything different than what we had before. If you're facing their offense, load the box up, dare their quarterback or their running back to rush the ball or scramble, and just dare them to throw it at this point. I think UTEP's quarterback has a much better arm than the Kent State one, and I think we're going to have much more success in the secondary, forcing those throws and just making that quarterback run for his life a whole lot during this game. When we're facing their defense, I think we got to mirror what Washington did. Washington had two guys like gash their run defense for 5.2 and 6.8 yards per carry. So we should really focus on establishing the run game and getting the run game involved and running the ball versus throwing it. I know probably what the game plan is give everybody a chance at the game. So it just gives them some seasoned experience versus better opponents such as Nebraska and Kansas State in 2 weeks at this point. Besides Marcus Major and Eric Gray, I would like to see Barnes and Sawchuk get some carries as well. Get them some experience. This is the game to do it. Again, most of their guys are D-line transfers. Our own line should be able to take care of business against them. And I mentioned it already, but I do want to emphasize it again. I would like to see some emphasis on the run game in this particular game. I know the stat sheet doesn't show it from last week, but it really feels like watching it live, we were really trying to force the square into the circle peg and really focus on the pass game. I would like us to see more of a balanced perspective of it and focus on the run game first before we really delve into the passing game. However, speaking of the passing game, to keep them honest, though, if the run defense is that bad, their pass rush is even worse. I think we're going to have much more success with passing the ball this week than even our vanilla playing last week at this point. Washington had multiple guys catch the ball and multiple guys score touchdown against them. I just really don't see how that's going to be any different, how that result's going to be different against us at this point. Only other things I can think of or keys to the games would be, again, clean up the penalties. We had a couple penalties last week that kind of seemed like it made the second quarter slump occur. So let's clean that up, make sure they're consistent, as well as honestly mix up the play calling a little bit and just give the defense time to rest. I think a lot of it, of the reason we could not get off the field last week outside of rotations, is due to the offense scoring so fast. I want to see us pace it a little bit better today. Again, I want to avoid any type of quarter slumps as possible. So let's go into predictions at this point. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you thought we were not going to learn anything about this team last week or a minimal amount, we sure as heck are not going to learn anything about them this week. This is another type of name your score game, as it's our yearly sacrifice to Owen Field, to the football gods, wishing us for a good season at this point. In my opinion, Kent State is just worse than UTEP, and UTEP looks like at this point is just hoping to have a winning season and just break .500. Again, you can term it any other way you want. This is going to be the game. Oh, you kick somebody's skull in. This is going to be a body bag game. This is the sign the check game. We could literally roll out of this bed, out of the bed, and beat this opponent at this point. I just think this game is just mostly going to be used to prep us for Nebraska and get ready for that hostile environment next week, even though it's at 11 a.m. Second verse, same as the first. Am I right? Additionally, I think I want to continue to emphasize on how difficult this game is actually going to get any reads on. On one hand, yes, they're not going to open the playbook, most likely not respecting Kent State's skill position guys, and just give everybody an opportunity to gain experience. Similar to like how someone keeps practicing, like doing math problems or doing repetitive motions. So especially that they can get used to it and have more experience. On the other hand, I do want to say if there is some issues that persist from like last week, I do think that is going to be some concern, especially if it's in the secondary or some of the rotations that have happened that caused the second quarter slump or anything. That should be concerns, but we'll talk about that if that actually occurs. My prediction is I actually do believe OU is going to cover the 33.5 spread, and they are going to crush Kent State 55-14. I really think this is going to be looking for their real first competition of the season against Nebraska next week in Lincoln, and they're going to use this as a framework to develop that game plan against them. I also think, too, this is going to be one of those games, again, where a lot of the guys are going to get a lot of experience. We're going to see probably second and third string get in there at this point, and just give everybody a chance to play. So honestly, that's all I got this week, Sooner Nation. Remember, if you're in the even or the student section, wear red. Otherwise, wear white because it is Stripe the Stadium. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell when we go live or when I upload a new video to the channel so you can take a look at it. I hope you've enjoyed the content, and I plan to provide more throughout the season. Only one thing left, guys. Boomer Sooner, and there's only one.